Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my 2020 Best of Beauty video. If you have been keeping up with my Vlogmas series, you may have noticed my background has changed. Welcome to my channel if you are new. I like to consistently change up my background and I just can't help myself. Now I do have a few things pre-filmed. I think the majority of my pre-filmed videos were introductions to my 2021 project pans. I kind of wanted to get those introductions filmed and out of the way so that I knew what I would be focusing on in 2021, set those products aside, and then just played with makeup the last couple of weeks of the year before I went full force back into my project pan items. So if you notice in a couple of my videos in 2021, the beginning of 2021, back in front of with like the Christmas trees in the background, that's what's going on. But I do have to say I'm like obsessed with the pink lights. It took me 3 tries, 3 orders on Amazon to get the correct shade of pink. But I'm excited about it and I hope you guys like the new background. But that is not what this video is about. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the best products in every category that I tried in 2020. Not necessarily all new releases from 2020, but I tried them for the first time in 2020. So I tried to choose my tippity top faves. Some of the categories I definitely have a lot of products to share with you, and others I tried to keep it to the bare bones minimum. So if you guys are interested in seeing my favorite products that I tried in 2020, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you here. If you love project panning content, if you like to talk about eyeshadow palettes, or if you just like to chit chat about makeup, I feel like you would really like it over here. We don't take ourselves too seriously and we just like to have fun. So if that's something that interests you, I would love if you would subscribe. And other than that, let's just jump into my 2020 favorites. Today's drink of the day is High Noon in the flavor lime, because currently it's 11 a.m., which is close enough to noon for me. If you are 21 plus and have yet to try High Noon, I highly recommend it. It's basically a better version of White Claw or Truly, in my opinion, because it is made with real vodka and it just tastes a whole heck of a lot better. Okay, I'm gonna go category by category. Like I said, I really did try and narrow it down to my favorites, but I also am bad at narrowing things down. So most categories I have at least 3 items to recommend. Everything will be linked below in case you are interested in checking anything out. They are affiliate links. If that makes you uncomfortable, you can always go to the brand's website and search for the product. No pressure ever to use my links, but just wanted to throw that disclaimer out there. So let's start with the primer category. I have 3 primers that I tried this year that I fell in love with. Up first, I have the Urban Decay All Nighter Face Primer. I tried this one as well as the glow version of this for the first time this year, and honestly I really do like both of them, but I think I prefer the original just a little bit more than the glowy version, because typically I'm covering up the glow that you get from the glowy version anyway. In the year of 2020 and the year of the face masks, a gripping primer really does come in handy, and I do feel like this made a big difference in the wear time or the longevity of my makeup. I feel like it definitely did have a grip to it, and it really helped my makeup last a little bit longer. Maybe not attach to my face mask as quickly as if I were to use another primer. Up until this point, the gripping primer that I really used was the Milk Makeup Gripping Primer, but that one is super finicky, and if you're not careful, you can ruin your makeup real quick with that one. This one, I don't feel like it has a long set time, so I really feel like you can put this on your face and within a minute or 2, you can already start to put your foundation on, and you're not going to get any pilling or things like that that you typically get with the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. So I was a big fan of this one. Also, I tried the Tula Face Filter Blurring and Moisturizing Primer for the first time this year. I will say I don't really feel like this is a blurring or face filtering primer, and honestly I don't think it's the most moisturizing primer I've ever tried either, so you guys are probably sitting there thinking like, well, why the heck do you like it then, Steph? I feel like this was a nice gripping primer as well. I do feel like this made a difference in the wear time of my makeup when I wore this one as well, and I really like this one. I would repurchase. And then the final one, I finally tried the third of the 3 First Aid Beauty primers. I had tried the Coconut Skin Smoothing Priming Moisturizer has been my favorite primer for a couple of years now. I also am a huge fan of the First Aid Beauty Pores Be Gone primer, but I had yet to try the Ultra Repair Hyaluronic Hydrating Primer from First Aid Beauty. So I tried that for the first time this year, and I love this one too. I would say if I had to only keep 3 primers in my collection, I probably would just keep the 3 First Aid Beauty ones. This one is really hydrating, but again, I feel like this one has like a little bit of a grip to it, a little bit of a tack, and it really does help my makeup stay in place, and I was a big fan of this one, so I had to mention it. Okay, I tried a lot of foundations in 2020. I have a ranking all the foundations that I tried in 2020 video. I have since tried a couple more foundations since that video, but if you are interested, I'll leave that video linked down below. 2 favorite tinted moisturizers that I found this year were the Smashbox Halo Healthy All-in-One Glow Tinted Moisturizer. I love this. If I could only have one tinted moisturizer in my collection, it absolutely would be this. This is so beautiful. It gives the most natural, healthy, glowy finish to the skin. It evens out the complexion, but you can still see like your freckles, etc. And I am just a huge fan of this. When I first bought this and started trying it, I could not shut up about this. So I absolutely love that. And then I also was a big fan of the Tarte Maracuja Tinted Hydrator. Again, this does a really nice job of evening out your skin tone and complexion while still letting some of your potential like imperfections shine through. I have a lot of freckles from the days where I thought the sun was cool and putting Johnson Brothers baby oil all over your body. The thought right now like makes me like but I used to put Johnson Brothers baby oil all over my body and thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I was gonna get like the coolest tan and be like so tan. And in all reality, I would just fry like a freaking crab. I would literally be beet red, and then it wouldn't even turn into a tan. And now I completely forgot where I was going with this. Literally lost my train. Oh, imperfections. It won't hide your imperfections. So I have a lot of freckles from those days. And honestly, I kind of dig my face freckles. Like, I know that there's sun damage and whatever, and I don't want any more face freckles, but the ones that I have, I kind of dig. And I like when they shine through, which I definitely get with this tinted hydrator. So this is another one that I would and will repurchase when I finish. These were definitely my top tinted moisturizers of the year. And then in terms of foundations, I really enjoyed the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Hydrating Foundation. This one I would say has a decent wear time, not the longest, but also a pretty good wear time. I would say a solid 8 hours before it really starts to fade away. I think it's really nice and natural looking on the skin, and I was a big fan of this, as well as the Oma Beauty Say What Weightless Soft Matte Hydrating Foundation. I don't know why, but when this released last year, for some reason I thought this was gonna be like the most matte foundation, the most thick, and it just was not gonna be for me. This is so thin. The first time I like squirted it onto, I think I squirted it onto my face the first time I used it, it literally dripped down my face, off my face, before I could get a sponge or a brush to my face to like start blending it in. It is so liquidy and lightweight. I don't even necessarily know that it has like a soft matte finish. It just looks super natural on the skin. It definitely is not full coverage like I also expected it to be, which is fine with me because I don't love a full coverage foundation, especially day to day. I have the shade White Pearl T2N, which if you guys have been with me this year, you know I've been on a self-tan journey. And honestly, when you tune into my channel, you really never know which shade of Steph you're gonna get. Today, almost all of my self-tan is off, and I know I shouldn't go back to the self-tan bottle. I know I should stay far, far away, but I had to bronze up my neck today because I couldn't see. It was like when I looked in the mirror today, I couldn't even see myself because I'm literally a ghost. I'm like translucent. I am so fair. So T2N is really, really light. I would love to pick up just a little bit deeper shade for when I hopefully can master just like a hint of a self-tan. Just like not stark white, not transparent, not translucent, just a hint of a, just like it looks like possibly I was reading by the window and the sun, I caught a little bit of sunshine, not like I live in a cave. So I'm a big fan of this foundation. And then finally, another favorite that, whoo baby, there's hair stuck to this. Whoo baby, this is going to be a staple in my collection. This is the Giorgio Armani Neo Nude True to Skin Natural Glow Foundation. I am obsessed with this. And granted, I know people hate when people are like, oh man, I'm obsessed with this, because it's just like the thing that beauty gurus say, but I freaking adore this foundation. It is so beautiful, so natural looking on the skin. I do have the shade 4.5, which is definitely more of like a self-tan shade for me. So it definitely was something that I wore more this summer, but anytime we were going out of the house to go on a walk, to go to the beach, to go out to eat, whatever it might be, to like get takeout and go drive somewhere and just sit and eat it in the back of our truck, because we couldn't always obviously go to restaurants because of the year of COVID. This is the foundation that I reached for. I adore this. I think this is absolutely beautiful. This would rank up there with like my tippity top foundations, the Dior Forever and the Dior Forever Skin Glow. So good. Highly recommend this one. I have two powders that I tried for the first time this year that definitely turned into favorites. Up first, I have the Glossier Wowder. This is actually my second jar of this that I'll be going through this year. I absolutely adore this. It's very lightweight, looks very natural on the skin. It's not heavy. It just sets your makeup, but then you can spray a little bit of setting spray on it and it's just gonna look like your skin, which is like my sweet spot when it comes to powders. I do not like anything too heavy. I'm really picky about my powders because I feel like I just always end up looking like a crepey mess, and I hate that. So I have been a huge fan of Glossier Wowder. This would be like tied for number one with the Hourglass Ambient Light Powder, or Ambient, whatever the loose powder is. And I believe this one's cheaper. I'm not necessarily sure how much you get in this one versus the Hourglass one and what the price per ounce would compare to, but if you don't want to pay as much money up front and you're looking for a similar powder to the Hourglass one, I would recommend this one from Glossier. It's so nice and lightweight. And then also I tried the Bite Beauty pressed powder. This is the Changemaker Flexible Coverage Pressed Powder. They do have, I think, a decent shade range for this. I don't know if this is necessarily supposed to be a powder foundation or just a pressed powder, but I want to say they have at least 8 shades in this. And as you can tell, I have major pan on this. This is something that I am going to try and finish off in 2021 and would repurchase. This, as well as the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Powder, I love both of them. They both do a really nice job of evening out the, or just like smoothing the skin, kind of giving an airbrushed appearance to the skin. Both are really expensive. I feel like when I finish this, I really want to try the number 7 pressed powder, which I've heard is a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury one. I'm very interested in testing out that powder, but I absolutely could see myself purchasing this one again because I think it's so beautiful. I love that there's a range of shades. I personally picked up the lightest shade, which is light 1. I think when I am self-tanning, which is pretty much always, I could go up a shade, but I'm a huge fan of this and I definitely would recommend this one if you're looking for a nice lightweight pressed powder that is going to do a really nice job of just smoothing the skin without looking or feeling too heavy. I have 3 concealers that I tried for the first time and fell in love with. I feel like these will come as no surprise because I've talked about these a lot on my channel this year. I just realized my French braids, I have like 2 different color ponytails. I'm just a mess. Whatever. Back to the concealers. Hourglass Vanish, beautiful, really full coverage concealer. You need the you need the lightest amount of this under the eyes to give you just the smoothest, most beautiful blend. You can easily go too heavy with this, so I would recommend, I learned this tip from Robert Welsh, just do a dot in like the corner of the eye and a dot on the end of the eye. And I really like to blend concealer with my finger, like blend it out with my concealer because it warms up the product. These are all tips that I learned from Robert Welsh this year. And then I'll blend it out with like a sponge or whatever to give it a very seamless blend. But do not use too much of this or you probably won't like this. But if you like a full coverage concealer, I think this is really nice. I have mine in the shade Creme. And then the Kosas Revealer Concealer. This became a true favorite this year. Honestly, for like tip-top brand this year, it would probably be Kosas or Oma Beauty, which I'm about to talk about. Pretty much everything I tried from both brands, like nothing was a miss. The Revealer Concealer would probably be my favorite concealer in my entire collection. This is really hydrating underneath the eyes. Now, I have heard that the entire range runs fairly yellow in the Kosas concealer. I have mine in the first shade, shade 1, and I feel like this is pretty neutral. I don't know about any of the shades up from shade 1. This is a little bit light when I am a little bit self-tan, but usually I don't self-tan my face, and I just kind of try and match everything, which never really goes so well, but I just try and match my face to my body in terms of like foundation and bronzing my skin. So the shade 1 works really, really well for me. If you are looking for a little bit more coverage with this concealer, what you can do is swipe this on and let it sit for a minute or so, and it still blends beautifully. This isn't something that like you have to blend out right away, and it's just so hydrating, so smooth, and just so stinking beautiful underneath the eyes. This was like a top gem of this year. And then also the Oma Beauty Stay Woke Concealer. The first couple of times I tried this, I did not think I was going to love this. It's a little bit drier than I typically prefer, but not dry. Like it's still hydrating enough that it doesn't feel like it's looking like crepey or dry underneath my under eyes. I have mine in the shade Fair Lady T1. I like that this has a really nice large doe foot, and I love this shade match for me. It's a little bit darker than these two, and when I'm self-tan, this works so well for me. It's more neutral, which I really appreciate, and I just love the formula on this. I absolutely will repurchase this one as well. Very full coverage underneath the eyes, but again, it doesn't look super heavy underneath the eyes, which I can just really appreciate. This is one that I wouldn't let sit too long underneath the eyes and then blend out. Like I would put this on and then blend it out, but it's still full coverage, drier than these two, but not super dry, because if there's a concealer that's too drying, I'm definitely like, I'm not about that life. I do not do dry at all. Okay, 2020 was a year that I fell in love with cream products. Like I just became a fan of cream products. So for the bronzer category, I have 4 cream products to recommend and only 1 powder. So we'll start with the powder. I know that this is expensive, but truly this was such a standout for me this year. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. I have mine in the shade 2. I've mentioned this before, but my favorite thing about this bronzer is that it's really buildable. I absolutely love to bronze my skin. It's one of my favorite steps. I like to look super bronzy, obviously, because I'm always bronzing my skin. And honestly, I don't really care if it looks like I don't care if I'm super bronzed. I know some people are like, oh, I like a lighter bronzer. I don't like to look too bronzed. Me, I'm all about like, give me all the bronze. I want it to look like I got all the sun without actually getting all the sun. So I love that this is really creamy yet really buildable, so I don't end up looking ridiculous. And this is something that obviously it's a huge pan, so will take a really long time to get through, but I will continue to repurchase this one. I think that this is better than the Marc Jacobs Fantastic. I like it more than the Marc Jacobs Fantastic, and this is truly just an absolute staple in my collection. I'm really glad that I decided to try this year. And then for the cream products, let's start with another winner from Oma Beauty. I grabbed the Oma Contour and the Sculpt and Strobe Stick. So you get a contour on one side and a highlighter on the other side. This is so beautiful. Both sides are so creamy and blend so easily, but they're not so creamy that they blend away into nothing. Sometimes you get that with cream products where it's like they're almost too, I don't know if emollient's the right word, but they're almost too creamy that they just kind of blend away into nothing. This doesn't do that, and the contour shade in this is just like the absolute perfect shade. It's not too gray toned, but it's also like obviously not too warm. I just think it's so stunning. And then I absolutely love the highlighter in this as well. I believe I have the lightest of the 4, I don't know how many total shades this specific stick comes in, but I would be really interested in also purchasing the next shade up, which has like the blue rings around it. I still think that this is beautiful. I think the highlight's beautiful. I've been opting for a more subtle highlight. This is definitely a little bit more subtle, and I've been a huge fan of this one. Again, nothing that I tried from Oma Beauty was a miss this year. I liked everything I tried from the brand. I also finally tried the Hollywood Contour Wand from Charlotte Tilbury. I think this is really beautiful as well. Very, very easy to blend. I know a lot of people don't like the poof ball packaging. I personally don't mind it. I think the first couple of times that you use this specific product, there is definitely a little bit of a learning curve as you see how much product comes out. But after you get the hang of it, it's really not that big of a deal, and I think that the packaging is really easy to use personally. Huge fan of all of her wands. I tried the highlight wand and the contour wand for the first time this year, and actually last year I said I wasn't a huge fan of her blush wands, the Peachgasm specifically. That became a favorite this year, so I ate my words on that. I also tried the Huda Beauty Tan Tour contour and cream bronzer for the first time this year. Also became a huge fan of this. What I really enjoy about this product is for a cream bronzer, this is actually pretty full coverage. So if you are looking to go for a pretty glam or full coverage look that you can't always achieve with cream products, this is definitely something where you can achieve that really full coverage look, but also still looking so seamless and natural because it is a cream product. I have mine in the shade Fair, which I believe is the lightest shade. I adore this, and this is something that I will continue to have in my collection. And then finally, Tower 28 is another brand that I would say is like a tippy top favorite find in terms of brands this year. So right here I have the Bronzino, and I have mine in the shade West Coast. If I could open this. I adore this as well. So this is definitely more of a shimmery bronzer, and it looks really intimidating when you swatch it because it's like, okay, that just looks like a really deep gold highlight. But if you put this over top of a more matte bronzer, for example, if you put this over top of like the Milk Makeup Bronzing Stick, I love that combination because the Milk Makeup Bronzing Stick is matte, and then you're adding a shimmer on top, and in the summertime, it's just so beautiful. Now, if you are not a fan of a glowy cheek or a glowy bronzer, this is not going to be for you, but I already can't wait to pull this out in the summertime, spring, summer again. And if I can ever travel to a warm place again, this will absolutely be coming with me. All right, you guys, I think I brought over 30 blushes into my collection this year, which is nutty. Like, that's ridiculous for one person, and I get it. But I also have a lot of faves here to share with you. Some powder, some cream, some both. So we're gonna start with the powder version, and these are probably the newest finds. And one of these is really, like, I really new, like I just hauled it, and I will be reviewing it likely in January. But I'm a little bit ashamed because I'm not a huge fan of just like the Kardashians in general. But I did buy, so I bought the shade, the Kylie blush in the shade Close to Perfect, which is this really beautiful neutral shade. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna have time to add, like, insert swatch photos. We fell way behind on Vlogmas towards the end, and I do not have time for the swatches. I apologize. Fell in love with this. This blends so nicely. It's really neutral, very buildable. So if you are someone who doesn't like a very pigmented blush, I think you'd really like this formula. And then most recently, this is the one I will be reviewing in January for you guys. This is in the shade We're Going Shopping. Just a little bit more pink toned. Again, very beautiful, very buildable. Big fan of the Kylie blushes. I think they're good. If you don't have anything against the Kardashians, if you don't have anything against supporting Kylie Cosmetics, I would definitely recommend these. All right, this is also a newer addition to my collection, but I haven't been able to put this away. Like, even in my Shop My Stash, I'm not able to put this away because I really enjoy this. This is from Aether Beauty, and it is their Crystal Charged Cheek Palette in the shade Rose Quartz, which is the lightest of the 3 shades, I believe. So you get 2 blushes and a really beautiful pink highlight. I absolutely adore a good icy pink highlight. So naturally I love the highlight, and it is an intense highlight. Like, it is pigmented. That is a really icy highlight. I feel like my light is potentially washing it out. I'm gonna have to figure out my lights with the new background. But the blushes are also really pigmented, but you can sheer them out. So it's not like super scary. It's not like you're gonna tap your brush on your face and instantly have clown cheeks and you're not gonna be able to like erase it. but these last a really long time as well. This is the first product I've tried from Aether Beauty, but I'm really impressed and very interested in trying more from the brand. I have 2 more powder blushes to recommend. I don't think these released this year. I think these released in 2019, but I tried them for the first time in 2020. It's the Persona blush, and I have mine in the shade Georgia. I need to get the shade, I think it's Camilla, because it looks like a beautiful, like, deeper mauve tone shade. I love Georgia. Oh my gosh, so smooth and easy to work with. Such a beautiful shade. And this reminds me a lot of the Buxom blushes in that it's not a matte formula, but it's not a super glowy formula. It's this beautiful, like, in between kind of satin. It just looks like, it's like, is she wearing blush, or does she just naturally have beautiful apricot-y coral cheeks? I just think Persona knocks it out of the park with just about everything that they release. Ooh, I think I just ordered their Holy Grail liquid lipstick. I hope that did make it into my order. I can't quite remember. But I love her liquid lipsticks. I love her palettes, her highlights, and I fell in love with her blush this year as well. So absolutely recommend this. And then I also got to try the Charlotte. That eye noon's really kicking in. I got to try the Charlotte Tilbury boob blushes this year. The nipple blushes. So funny. Just kidding. I'm literally so dumb, but again, at least I make myself laugh. Alright, these are the Cheek to Cheeks. And I tried mine in the shade Pillow Talk Intense, which definitely is a better shade for me in the fall time. I remember this so vividly. So my husband and I closed on our house on the 2nd of March, I think it was. And the 3rd of March, I think it was, my mom came up. My husband was working. My mom came up to like help me like put stuff together and move stuff around. And before she came, I was like, you know what, we just made like a huge purchase, spent so much money on our down payment and whatever, but I'm gonna go just fucking toss a lot of money around at Sephora. And I decided to pick this blush up along with many other things. So this blush just holds a special place in my heart because I just remember buying this like within 24 hours of moving into our house. But it is a really beautiful blush. I know that you could somehow potentially try and like just use this shade or just use this shade. I just mix my brush together and this is the shade that I get. I think it's beautiful. It's a little bit deeper, which I can appreciate. Sometimes I like a little bit deeper blush shade or some like a nudie deep blushy shade that you can just blend into your bronzer so it just looks like extra bronze. You guys know I love to be bronze, especially my hands, right? If you know what I'm talking about, you know. But I'm just a big fan of this. I'm really interested in trying more of the Cheek to Cheeks, specifically maybe like a lighter shade. So hopefully one will be entering my collection in 2021. All right, next up, Kosas. You guys know I fell in love with pretty much everything Kosas. So their powder duos as well as their cream duos. I just grabbed one of each. Maybe I think I grabbed 2 powder duos actually. Yep, I did. One moment. Okay, so in my powder duo, I have the shade Papaya. I absolutely love a good like peachy blush, whatever. So I have a peachy blush and then it also comes with a highlight. I really do enjoy the powder version, but I think even more so, I enjoy the cream version of the Kosas duo. So here is the shade Velvet Melon, which is essentially the cream version of Papaya. Again, you're getting a really beautiful sort of melon colored blush shade and then a really, really beautiful highlight. These are very, very creamy and very, very easy to work with. Very beginner friendly in my opinion. They did reformulate these to have a longer shelf life as well. So they're 18 months now as opposed to 6. I also have Tropic Equinox, which I think is so stunning. I absolutely love a good nude tone blush shade, which is what you're getting here. And then most recently, I picked up one of their Intense blush duos, which is in the shade 8th Muse. I adore this. I adore pink tone highlights, you guys know. So this pink highlight is so beautiful. And if I'm looking for a really just vibrant blush, I go for this beautiful pink shade. Or I can layer this with like, put this, kind of do almost a reverse foundation, but put this on top of my foundation, then go over it with a powder just to kind of dull the color a little bit if it's a little bit too much. I think that the Kosas duos are so good. I also forgot to mention in my powders, the Samantha March Chick Lit, slow it down, Steph. Chick Lit Blush Duo. I love this. I really need to get the bronzing duo. I was just so happy for Samantha March. I have been following Samantha since she had like 10,000 subscribers with the red wall. So to get to see her do this collab, I was here for it. She is someone who, like, I literally never miss an upload. It doesn't matter what she's posting. I always catch her uploads. So I was so excited for her, and I thought that this was such a brilliant idea. You have a matte powder as well as a shimmery powder. Usually I actually just mix these together, and I think that they make the most beautiful blush shade. This is a pretty pigmented blush, but on a really fluffy blush brush, I think it just makes the most beautiful, like, neutral blush shade, and I really have been a big fan of this one this year. Also, the Patrick Ta blush duos, huge fan. I have She's So LA, which is the more like bronzy tone. I absolutely adore this one. I think it's beautiful. Again, I'm a huge fan of bronzy blush shades. And then also I picked up Do We Know Her, which I think is such a beautiful shade for the summer. In the summer, I love blushes that literally make me look like I have a sunburn, and that's exactly what I'm getting from this. With these, you're actually supposed to put the powder down first and then layer it with the cream part of the blush duo. And what I love about that is it actually does make the blush last a little bit longer, and it also gives you the payoff of like a cream formula. So if you were to layer it by putting the cream down first and then layering it with a powder, it kind of gives that powdery effect. But by putting the cream version on top of the powder, you're getting that sheen that you get from a cream blush. So I think that this was a brilliant release. I am so excited for anything that Patrick Ta releases, but I absolutely loved these this year. All right, sorry you guys, I do have a few more blushes. I have my cream and liquids. I liked the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out cream blushes. I feel like these are really polarizing. People either loved them or hate them. I loved them or hated them. I need to slow it down. I personally loved them. I have Petal Poppin', which is the really beautiful like springy pink shade. I also have Rose Latte, which I've really been enjoying for the fall and winter time. It looks really deep in the pan, but I, again, love something that kind of just blends in with your bronzer, and I think that this is gorgeous. And then I got the shade Fenty Glow in her holiday set, and this is such a beautiful glowy nude blush. So good. I'm a huge fan of the Fenty cream blushes. I also tried the Glossier Cloud Paints for the first time this year. I originally picked up Puff, which is a really beautiful baby pink shade, and went on to also purchase Beam, which is a really beautiful coral. This is a formula that I will continue to purchase different shades in. There are other shades that I'm still really interested in picking up. Very easy to work with, very pigmented. You need the smallest amount of product to blend onto your face, and I absolutely adore the Glossier Cloud Paints. I was also a person who was a fan of the Rare Beauty blushes. So I have 3 shades. I have 2 of the mattes, because I think Love is in the matte formula. Does it say? I don't know. I have Love, Bliss, which I know is matte, and then I also have Joy. So I would say out of the 2 formulas, I think that the Dewy formula is a little bit more my style. I think it's a little bit prettier. I like that it adds a little bit of a glow to the cheeks. But I really like the matte shades. This one specifically any time of year because it's just so neutral. And this one specifically for fall winter because it's this beautiful terracotta red. Joy I am going to absolutely adore in the summer and in the spring again because it's sort of that like sunburned sort of blush shade. But I think these are really good. There's definitely a learning curve. You need like a dot here, or just one dot and blend it out and you'll be good. But once you learn how to use these, so good in my opinion. And then also Tower 28, their blush is so good. I tried the shade Magic Hour and I want the other 2 shades because I absolutely adore this blush. It is really creamy and really easy to work with. I think really beginner friendly as well. I think this shade out of all of them is the most neutral. So if you're just dabbling in cream blushes, this would be a really great shade to start out with potentially just because it is so neutral. You really can't go wrong, but it's so easy to work with. It is a little bit sticky and doesn't necessarily set down. That doesn't bother me. I can always go over it with a powder blush or a powder, whatever it might be. So if you don't like something that like doesn't necessarily set down all the way, just be leery of that. But I think that this is a beautiful formula as well. For highlighters, I feel like I did not try that many highlighters this year. I really don't feel like I did. And I also feel like I didn't love on highlighters as much as I have in years past. That being said, I do have a few favorites. These are probably my two tippity top favorites. So first from Rare Beauty, I have the shade Mesmerize. Again, I know that this is a very polarizing product in her line. People either loved it or hated it. Because this one was a little bit more subtle, I personally loved this, and I love a pink tone highlight, as I've said a few times throughout this video. So Mesmerize is a really good shade for me. I think this is so beautiful. It's so easy to work with, so easy to blend. A lot easier to work with than the blushes, in my opinion. So I was a huge fan of this. I also found the RMS highlighters this year. So I have this mini quad, and I am like obsessed. I know that word, toxic. But I really love Champagne Rosé and Magic Luminizer. These two, so good. So good. Like, if I was still going to the gym every day, you can bet your bottom dollar I would be popping one of these on my cheek so that as I enter the gym, it looked like I got the best workout of my life in, and I was just sweating, but just like, I looked like, who's like a really famous model? I have literally no clue. I just looked really good with my little highlighted cheeks coming in and out of the gym. Definitely will repurchase the larger quad when I finish those two shades. This might be like one of my tippity top absolute fave finds of the year. Also from Glossier, I tried for the first time their Night Shine highlighter. I have mine in the pink shade, which is Pale Pearl actually, but runs a little bit pink. This wasn't as intense as I was expecting based on other reviews that I've seen, but it also wasn't subtle. So what you do, it also is like a really kind of weird applicator. It's this really interesting, really mini doe foot applicator that I just kind of like tap onto my cheeks and then blend it out. But I do think that this is absolutely beautiful. I've been really into cream and liquid highlights as well, probably the most out of all of my cream and liquid finds this year. I've been liking cream and liquid highlighters the most. I just think that they give such a beautiful natural glazed light to the skin. I don't know what I'm trying to say at this point, but two powder highlighters I found this year and really came to love. One was the Soul Body soft pink shimmering body powder. This is really interesting. When I swatched this, I did not think that I was going to like this. I don't even know how well you'll be able to see that. It feels a little bit dry to the touch. This is one that you pop on the cheeks and it almost takes like 15 minutes before I feel like it really settles into the skin. But when it settles into the skin, it just looks like your skin, but better. Your skin with a glow, and that's what I love about this. I chose the pink shade because we all know I love a pink highlight. So that's why I chose this shade, but I was a big fan of this. And then also the Kaleidos Ray Rider highlight. I want all of the Kaleidos highlights, even the ones that are like more colorful. Just look so beautiful even as eyeshadows. But this is a really beautiful like champagne highlight. Like, it is absolutely stunning. It just makes your cheeks look wet. Like, it doesn't really have much of a base to it. It does have a champagne base to it, but it truly just makes the cheeks look wet, and I've been such a fan of this one as well. I've been so impressed with Kaleidos this year. So many good indie brand finds this year. Not even necessarily in like Kosas and Tower 28. I still would consider indie because they're smaller, and then Kaleidos obviously. So many good indie finds, Odin's Eye, etc. But those were my favorite highlighters of the year. Okay, this video really is going to be a million years long if I do not wrap this up. Lip products, really quick. I talked about these so much on my channel. The Tower 28 lip jellies, highly recommend. Super comfortable, not sticky. One of the smoothest lip formulas on the market in terms of lip glosses. Highly recommend. I love this fire shade for the summertime. It's It doesn't have full opacity, but it has some color to it. Also, the clear version, if you just like a clear gloss, really good. And then also I really love the shade Cashew for a more like neutral lip. The Maybelline Lifter glosses, so good. I would say a good dupe for the Fenty Gloss Bomb formula. I still would want to have both in my collection personally, but if you don't really care, the Lifter gloss is so good. It feels really nice and moisturizing on the lips. They have a really good shade range. I want to say they have at least 10 to 12 shades in the range, and I definitely recommend these. I also was a big fan of the new Bite Beauty Yay Sayer Plumping Lip Glosses. I have the shade Cinnamon Twist as well as Guava Puff. I really like both of these. If I could only keep one, I probably would go with Guava Puff because I love a good like cool toned pink lip. But I think both are really nice. I love the applicator. I know the applicator isn't going to be for everyone, but I do think it's really nice and sanitary. It's like a plastic applicator and you twist the product up. So I don't know, I thought it was a really innovative sort of application technique, and I was a big fan of this. You guys also know I was a huge fan of the Kosas lip oils. I love lip balms, I love lip oils, so naturally I was a huge fan of these. The shade Jaws, this beautiful red shade for the summertime, chef's kiss, huge fan. And then also I was a really big fan of the Lila B lip oils this year. I will say my light shade Be Romantic, I don't know if I have like a defective one, but my doe foot doesn't pick up, like it feels really draggy across the lips. I don't have that issue with my other two Lila B lip oils. I really like Be Remarkable for the fall time. It's a really nice deep sort of wine shade. I will show you a swatch. What I love about these is you're getting a nice opacity to the lips, but it's a lip oil, so it's still super comforting on the lips, and I was a huge fan of these this year. After that, in terms of mascara, the one mascara find of this year that I tried for the first time was the Ilia Limitless mascara, which I thought was really good. And then for eyeshadow palettes, I ranked every single eyeshadow palette that I tried this year, so I will leave that video for you guys down below. But I think that is gonna wrap it up for today's video. I'm like looking around, I'm like, did I miss any categories? There's probably like, I'll probably find things and be like, shoot, I wanted to mention that. But you get the overall idea of a lot of my favorites from 2020. So that is gonna wrap it up for today's video. This video is gonna be like at least 40 minutes. So if you made it till the end, thank you so much. I would love to know what were some of your favorite finds in 2020, whether they released in 2020 or you tried them for the first time, or you've been using them forever and they were just still your favorites in 2020. I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye.